Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us for the 13th installment of Talking VoIP with Datagate, where we go on a learning journey of subjects related to VoIP, UCaaS and telecom services from the perspective of MSPs and wholesale telecom providers. I'm 𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗍𝗍, CEO of Datagate Telecom Billing, and in today's episode, why SOHO SD-WAN is a strategic new revenue opportunity for MSPs, our guest is Eric Hernaez, who's the CEO of RabbitRun, a man with a very successful background as an entrepreneur in the MSP and UCaaS telecom space, best known as the founder of SkySwitch. Eric, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate you having me. Nice to speak with you in this format.
Likewise, excellent. Thank you, Eric. It's great to have you here. And so Eric, please tell us a bit about RabbitRun. What is RabbitRun?
Sure, I would love to. So RabbitRun, we call what we do SOHO SD-WAN. And SD-WAN, of course, stands for Software-Defined Wide Area Network. And SOHO, which is our particular unique spin on it, just means that we've invented a new way of doing SD-WAN that is really more appropriate and conducive to selling to smaller offices and even home offices, that is, remote workers working from home. And in a nutshell, we fix the internet for businesses and make it business ready. There's a couple different ways that works. Number one is that we do quality of service assurance, and really what that means is that we can just put the packets that are important in front of the packets that are not important for any given connection, so that on a call like this, or whether it be a Zoom call or Teams or even a phone call over VoIP, those kinds of packets get through before other kinds of packets. The second part of what we do, though, we call flawless 4G failover. In every one of our devices that we sell as part of our service, we have a 4G cellular modem. And what's unique about it is that it's an integral part of our solution, so that if there's a blip in your internet, most people use cable modems and for their home office or small business. If there's a blip in the internet, which happens frequently, we can very quickly move the important packets over to the cellular connection, so that if you're on a call like this, there's barely a blip, and if you're working on important documents in the cloud, you still have access to that. And so basically it allows you to continue working on your important stuff even when there's service affecting issues with the underlying internet provider.
Wow. And so increasing the I guess the quality and service of the internet must open up new opportunities for MSPs, I guess. And what sort of opportunities have you seen, in terms of types of customer that this type of service?
Sure. So we sell our service primarily to MSPs. We're only channel, so we do not sell direct to the end user ever. So we sell to MSPs who are providing a wide variety of services. Many are UCaaS service providers, so they're selling voice and video calls. But we also sell to other types of MSPs, so MSPs that take care of retail establishments, for example, where the point of sale system, which is generally internet based nowadays, is dependent on a good internet connection for business to take place, right? You can't do credit card charges or take orders if your internet's not up. So really, those are the two main areas of interest or main areas that we focus on in terms of our marketing approach. But really, the opportunities there for any MSP that takes care of a business network, whether it be a SMB or as many home workers are working from home, so that carries over to the business's IT desk, right? So in both cases, we can provide a solution that lets the MSPs fix that problem of internet that's not stable. And then in addition to that, we have a slew of other tools that complement that basic service. And the tools are really just support tools that let the MSP provide support, answer questions, deal with issues just more quickly and more efficiently than they'd be able to do without it.
Right, excellent. So how do MSPs engage with RabbitRun, and what's the pricing model, and what's the deal for an MSP?
So we're basically a wholesale provider. We do not bill the end customer. We bill our MSP partner. So at the end of the month, based on the number of licenses that have been activated during the month, we will send an invoice to our MSP. Our MSPs are then in turn able to turn around and rebill that to their customers on their own bill with their own logo. And within the parameters of our program, charge their customers, whatever they like to charge. Many times MSPs find this as a great value add to be able to bundle it in with the other services they provide. Other times it's a standalone solution where the MSP can just sell it as a one-off monthly recurring charge, and maybe that's the only service the MSP has with that particular customer. In any case, what's nice about this is it gives the MSP another touch point, another conversation to have with their customers, right? Because everybody has internet problems, let's face it, and the solutions that are out there typically have, and when I say the solutions, I mean other SD-WAN solutions, have been designed for enterprises, big enterprises. So when you talk about the smaller footprints, the smaller installations, it's really been hard to find a viable solution if you're out there, and also the complexity plays a large part of it too. And so for the most part, MSPs have shied away from selling these kinds of SD-WAN services because number one, it's too expensive for their customers, and number two, there's a steep learning curve. So we try and solve that problem by providing a solution that fits within the budget of their customers, but then is also very easy to use, much less complex than other solutions, and really something that they can sell wholeheartedly and feel good about selling while they're making an additional MRC.
Wow, excellent. And so how long does a customer have to sign up for? It's obviously a subscription service. Is there a sort of a minimum time period that they sign for?
No, well, so currently our services are month to month. What happens is when you activate a license, we have a 30-day cancellation period. So when a license is activated, it's activated for the first month and the last month. And so at any time, the license can be canceled. And this is all controlled through our portal, which gives our partners the ability to go in and place orders and manage their orders and see billing information related to the customers that are using the service, of course. But anyway, at any time, you can go in, you can cancel the service for that particular end customer. And that's it. At 30 days later, billing stops. And since we are currently not signing multi-year contracts, so there's no long-term commitment.
Right. And the hardware itself is all part of the service contract, is it?
Right. That's an important part of it. We've made this completely as a service, so there is no hardware to buy. It's really everything is baked into the monthly service cost. So there's only one monthly amount to deal with. Right.
Excellent. Well, really nice. And so, given that our audience has a particular interest in UCaaS, VoIP, what are the main differences that RabbitRun has to offer a UCaaS installation, and is this a nice partner product for a UCaaS environment?
Absolutely, it's a perfect complement for a UCaaS provider. Really, what typically happens when a customer has a problem with their internet is they'll call their UCaaS provider, right? Because if the phone call is not spot on and working the way they think it should work, even though it's the problem of the cable provider or whoever the ISP is that's providing that service to the end user, they're going to call the UCaaS provider first. And a lot of times what happens is you just get into a lot of finger pointing. The UCaaS provider will say, call the ISP, and the ISP will say, everything looks good. It must be a problem with your phone system. And, it's hard to really get to the bottom of those types of issues. With a solution like this, number one, you don't have those types of issues as often because we fix those problems before they happen. But number two, when these types of problems do happen, now the UCaaS provider can go in and see exactly what's going on. There's a couple unique features of our service that allow that to happen. The first is that we call this the jump service. You can, from our cloud portal, you can jump onto the device which is sitting at the customer's premise, right, on their LAN, remotely at any time. And so you get on that device, and once you're on that device, you can run a suite of troubleshooting tools from that site itself. So you can see, what the network problems are. You can see everything that's on the local area network. And so that in itself it opens up a whole new world of opportunities in terms of being able to support and know what the underlying causes are. But number two, we just recently launched a new feature called LAN jump, which allows you to get, once you're jumped onto that device, you can now access any of the devices that are on the local area network through their web portal. So you can go in and if there's a phone that's having a problem, you can actually log into that phone's web UI and configure the phone right there and then. There's a number of things that you can do on the phone that you wouldn't be able to do otherwise. And of course, we have the tools that everyone's looking for, so packet captures and session trackers, so that when you do have a problem, again, the information that you need to decipher what's going on and come up with a full picture is readily available to you.
Wow, that's great. So you refer to RabbitRun as SOHO SD-WAN, as apart from SD-WAN. So what are the characteristics that make RabbitRun SOHO?
I touched on this briefly before, but really it comes down to cost and complexity. Yeah. As I mentioned, SD-WAN products in general have been designed for large enterprises, right? It's not a technology that has easily been transferred to SMBs, and definitely not home workers, because it's very expensive typically. But also the complexity is the second part of that. Traditional SD-WAN services are very complex in terms of being able to configure and manage them. So you typically need a dedicated staff of engineers who really understand SD-WAN to be able to run that service. We've addressed both those issues, both the cost and the complexity, by making we've invented a new way of doing SD-WAN, frankly, and that's why we call it SOHO SD-WAN. And this new way greatly simplifies the architecture of the SD-WAN network so that it's not as complex, and because it's not as complex, it can therefore be sold much more cost effectively. So those are the two main things that differentiate what we call SOHO SD-WAN from SD-WAN. But then in addition to that, there's just certain things about, when you try to support a home worker, there's just certain things about that environment that are a little bit, out of the norm. Generally, when you set up a network in an office, and especially in a larger office, there's been at least a cursory amount of thought given to the network setup. With a home worker, on the other hand, anything goes, right? It's very difficult to support, who knows, it's generally the teenagers in the house who control the network, and who knows what's going on. So being able to provide a service in that type of environment is not easy. So we've tried to address the pain points of being able to do that, so that you can deploy this in a home worker environment. And so, those differentiators are what we describe as the SOHO part of our SOHO SD-WAN.
Right, excellent. And can you tell us about any particular opportunities with regard to vertical markets? Any particular industries that this product is ideal for? Obviously, it's got wide application, but are there any vertical industries in particular that you're seeing exciting opportunities for? Sure.
Well, the most obvious ones are retail type environments. Yes. Typically, a retail store is very small. They don't have a big budget for networking, right? Forget about, and this is not true of every retail, but in general, your typical smaller retail outlet won't have MPLS. The owner may not want to pay for 2 internet connections. Again, maybe there's only a couple people at the site at any given time. So, the amount of budget that's available to support those 2 people in the network is limited. So our solution fits into that perfectly, and especially when it's the type of service where, or the type of retail business where they rely on the internet in order to just do business, right? When the credit card swiper is relying on the internet, or if it's some other establishment with a POS system, or a restaurant, say a pizza restaurant that requires the internet to be able to take to take orders from all of the delivery services, you know, the Ubers and the DoorDashes of the world. It's very expensive for those types of establishments when the internet goes down, right? Not only can they not accept orders, but they can't, you know, for people that walk in, they can't make charges. So the retail vertical is a natural fit for our solution.
Right. Excellent. And you mentioned with the cellular connection, that gives you also other capabilities as well. It's over and above what you can do through the line, so to speak. Is that how you manage the devices? Is it coming in through the cellular side of things?
No, that's a great point. So what our device does is it lets you use 2 internet connections, and it manages those 2 connections, and that can be 2 broadband connections. But typically, what's more often the case is it's a a primary broadband connection and the cellular connection as the second connection. And so being able to leverage that cellular connection effectively is really the secret sauce that we bring to our solution. There's a couple things that go into that. First, you know, failing over to that cellular connection is important, and failing back once the main connection is okay again is just as important. So we master that failover and fail back. Number 2 is is just the way we handle the data that goes through the cellular connection. In most cases, you're paying by the meg or the gig for the cellular data. So you don't want to send a lot of unnecessary packets through there. So when you fail over, you know, every hour that goes by where you don't fail back, you know, you could be racking up charges, you know, that you didn't expect. Also, just in a lot of cellular type solutions, what happens is when you have a router that uses a cellular connection, just to make sure that cellular connection is always available, there's a lot of overhead. So it might cost you a gig worth of data a month just to have that cellular connection available. So we don't use that gig worth of data. In our solution, it's well under 100 meg just to, you know, to make sure that cellular connection is available. But then you mentioned the management and support, and that's really the best part. Even if you're not using the cellular connection as failover, because our units have the cellular modem and SIM available, you can get into that device over the cellular network and manage it when the main network is down. And that's a huge time saver, right? Because now you can, you know, typically you're going to have to call the cell phone of the person on site and get them to reboot their modems or, you know, work remotely. This gives you access onto the network again, even when there's a complete outage on the underlying broadband link.
Well, so this is a really exciting development for MSPs, and I can see huge applicability to UCaaS and you mentioned retail and so this is exciting, and I'm sure our audience will have questions and may want to contact you. I know, Eric, that we're both going to be at the ITEXPO Conference in June 21st to 24th. So I understand you'll be there in person yourself, Eric.
Yep, we sure will. We're exhibiting at ITEXPO. I'm also speaking on one of the SD-WAN panels that are happening during the expo, and looking forward to seeing you, Mark, there, as well as all of our partners and everybody else that shows up.
So, Eric, thank you for being our guest today. Your contribution today, I know, will be very, very interesting to our MSP audience. And to our audience, thank you for tuning into this episode of Talking VoIP with Datagate. You can, as we just mentioned, you can catch Eric and myself at the ITEXPO in Fort Lauderdale in June 21st to 24th, 2022. So please look out for the respective RabbitRun and Datagate booths. I think Datagate's at 8:31 and RabbitRun's at 9:31. And we will have a RabbitRun subscription as a prize at our Datagate booth. Details of this will be in the YouTube description below. We wish you all success in your MSP and communications endeavors, wherever you may be. And as always, may the VoIP be with you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Mark.